All right, we're good. Parents, good morning. Hope you're doing well. We've had a great second day of school so far. They're a little quiet right now. I'm sure that's not going to last. But I wanted to share a resource that I'm going to give you every single week. And I truly think it is one of the more important things that we do in class on a weekly, really on a daily basis. So you'll hear me talk a lot about FAM5. It is a really good tool to help us pre-teach things in the curriculum. It helps us spiral back to reteach. And then it gives us a chance to cover some of the curriculum that we're currently covering. So a lot of the times I'll have parents who ask, hey, what is something I can do to make sure my child is successful in math? Or what can I do to help bring up their grade? Look no further. I'm going to do one of these videos. I'm going to try my best. Every single week, I'm going to send it home on Monday. And I will always send home a copy of our FAM5 for the week. What it's going to be is it will be 5 questions that we will give. I'm going to give 15 minutes for your child to complete these 5 questions. And then they'll get a score 0 through 5. Obviously 0 being the lowest, 5 being the highest. The idea is going to be that on a Monday, don't expect a 5. And if you get a 0, that's okay. The goal is, as you move forward Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, to see that score start to creep up as the week goes on. With the Friday FAM5 being a quiz. Now, when you think about that, a quiz, when it only has 5 questions on it, may seem a little unfair. You miss one question, you go straight to a B. Here's why I stand by it. This video will come home weekly. It's a great resource. If you want to see how we're solving it in class, I got it right here for you. You will see the 5 questions every Monday, which you can come up with questions on your own if you want to practice at home. And we will spend a pretty significant time in class going over each question every single day. Now, what they do with that time is up to them. When I'm going over these questions, you can ask questions, you can take notes, and those notes can be used on the next day. So ideally, you might have no idea how to do a question on Monday. You might see it once, get some clarification on how we solved it, take a couple notes, use that the following day, and that might take you from a 0 to a 1. I put a really big emphasis on, I'm not looking for 4s and 5s at the beginning of the week. I'm looking for growth. If you go from a 0 to a 1, you did your job. We keep track of the data as a class as well. Like today, we got 24 kids in here. For number 1, we got 18 right. That's amazing to have 18 people get that question correct, but that doesn't matter if it doesn't go up to 19 tomorrow. So the goal is we want to see constant growth. And the reason why that data works for instance, for this week, we're using the same 2 graphs for today's Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday for the quiz. We got a double bar graph, we got a line plot. The questions that go along with these graphs, they are going to be very, very similar, but maybe we're going to use a different category or we'll use different numbers. But if they know how to solve it today, they can kind of use that to help them moving forward. So when I think about a quiz on Friday, my expectation is that they can do well because they have a resource to look at home. They have the chance to ask questions and take notes. And obviously, if there's something I'm noticing where they may need some additional support, that's what I'm here for in the classroom. And look, something on here might not make sense. Don't hesitate to reach out. I can help you out. But there's going to be weeks like this week where this video might take me 5 minutes. There's going to be weeks where you're not going to watch the whole thing and you're just going to say, hey, you missed number 3 today, let's skip to that one. I want this to be as detailed and as helpful as possible. So this was our very first FAM5 that we've done today. We introduced a double bar graph. This is not something they'd seen before, and it's really not something we're supposed to see until the end of the year. So this is one of the good things about FAM5 is being able to pre-teach. And I told them it's really important to look at the key because we got 2 different color bars. One represents 3rd grade, one represents 4th grade. It's the first place that they should look. So our first question today was, how many total students picked soccer as their favorite sport? I told them when they see that word total, I almost want them to write it down in their notebook because they know that's important. We know there's going to be some addition involved here. So when we're talking soccer, we're looking at this category and that includes both bars. That's where the total comes in. We looked at the 3rd graders that had 20, 4th graders that had 25, and the big thing, and this is going to be hard for them to realize, most of them can do 25 plus 20 in their head. That's not impressive to me. I'm much more impressed with the people who are going to take the time to say, hey, let me stack these up. Let me line up their place value. Let me add it together. Because anybody can just write an answer. I'm more interested in how'd you solve it? Let me see it. Once you added those together, that's where you got 45. So I told them tomorrow they're going to see the same exact double bar graph, but the question might say, how many total students picked baseball? Or it might say, how many fourth graders chose this sport? That's why the key is really important. But 18 out of 24 on that one, they did great. All right, the second question was, how many more fourth graders liked basketball than third graders? Same thing like we said with number one with total. Those words, how many more, they need to jump off the page. You got to see that and know, hey, I'm subtracting something. Now it's a matter of getting the right numbers. Got to look at the right sport and then look at the bars. I'm looking at basketball, and when we're subtracting, you got to take the smaller number from the bigger number. So when I'm looking at my bars, clearly more fourth graders liked basketball. If I'm looking at my key, I see that 30 fourth graders liked basketball, and I'm going to subtract the 5 third graders that liked basketball, which again, I'm not looking for you to do that in your head. I'd love to see you regroup. We've got more on the floor. We're going next door. That way, when we regroup, we're able to subtract and get our answer of 25. Same thing with that one. They're going to see a very similar question tomorrow, very similar keywords. Like if they're going to miss number 2 tomorrow, they better miss it subtracting. That's a big thing to me. You can miss the question. I can still look at it and say, hey, you paid attention, you got the right idea, but here's where we got to go next. And then our last question from the double bar graph. This is why the key is really important. It says, which sport had 15 votes from third graders? So we talked about it today. I said, what color bar do we need to be looking at? Well, the key says that third graders are represented by blue. So that's where I would have gone to the 15. I would have come over here, and I would have seen that swimming had 15 votes. I had people who missed it who chose baseball, which, look, that's a great answer. You read that bar correctly. That's 15 votes, but that's fourth graders. So that key is going to be really helpful. They'll see the same exact double bar graph for the next 2-3 days, whatever day it is today. Now, what they struggled with a little bit today, which was expected, was a line plot. I don't think many of them had seen a line plot before, and they had really great questions. The problem is I don't answer questions during those 15 minutes they're solving it. I answer all the questions after. So they're like, what do the X's represent? How do I know what this means? And we talked about it. Use the title. The title says the number of cars sold on each day in a week. Well, you've got the days in the week down here. Those X's represent cars. So if I'm just looking at Saturday, I know 2 cars got sold on Saturday. So when I look at my question number 4, it says how many cars were sold on Thursday or later. So I talked about, like, mom and dad. If a boss said, hey, I need this report on my desk, you can get it to me Thursday or later. Well, that means he don't want it early. You're able to give it to him on Thursday, but he would take it on Friday, he would take it on Saturday. Same thing if I said, I gave him homework on Monday. I said, hey, I want this Wednesday or later. You got Wednesday. I don't need it Wednesday. You got Thursday and Friday also. So when we talked about Thursday or later, it's not just Thursday. I've got to include the rest of the week, and then you're just counting the X's. So you got 7 here, 3 cars here, 2 cars here, and then when you added those together, you would have had 12. And the good thing about the quiz on Friday is I'll always have it printed out. I don't want them to waste time drawing the bar graph, drawing the line plot. One, just because it is going to take a lot of time, but also you might put one thing wrong, one data mark wrong, and it's going to mess up all of your answers. So we'll have that printed out on Friday to make it a little bit easier. And then the last one for the line plot, it said how many cars were sold after Tuesday but before Saturday. So that one's kind of wordy. If I'm talking about after Tuesday, that does not include Tuesday. Just looking up here, the days after Tuesday to me are Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. But it says it's got to be before Saturday. So that does not include Saturday. That would include Friday, Thursday, Wednesday. And then once again, I would count all my x's. I got 4, I got 7, I got 3, which is where I would get the 14. Really, there's a lot of logic involved in that. Yes, there's math, but you got to really read that and think about what the question's asking. Now, I know that I really flew through those 5 questions. We're a lot more detailed in class when we're going over these, but this is really just scratching the surface of what Fam 5 is. I already told them, like, they're probably not going to like me very much next week because there's a lot of pre-teaching involved, but the reason I do that, I focus on how to do it instead of why we do it. So like we're gonna do long division months before we're supposed to. They might not necessarily understand why we're doing it, but they're gonna know how. It makes it a lot easier once we get there. So this might be the opposite of what you teach at home. I could care less what their scores are on Fam 5, on their assignments. If they work as hard as they possibly can, good things are probably going to come, but I'm not sitting here frustrated over grades. I get frustrated over effort. If you would like to put your child in the best position possible to be successful in 4th grade math, this is it. If they can get 4s and 5s on their Fam 5 quiz every single week, it's really hard not to have an A or a B. And I want to give you every resource and every possible opportunity to make that happen. So check on Dojo weekly. I may not have the video posted every Monday. It might be like a day later. I'll always have the questions posted, but I really think this could be helpful, not just with you knowing what we've got going on in class, but with your child and them being more comfortable solving these questions on their own. So I hope this was helpful. Again, you might be looking at these like, dude, I know how to do these questions. It will get more challenging. So thank you for watching. If you have questions, let me know, and just be on the lookout for more.